I was on mute. I couldn't.
Oh, no worries, Padma. So we're going to start right now with the session. And so also what I wanted to tell you guys is you are aware of the calendar. I hope you are, and that people practice, put their time slots in the calendar. So if you're looking to practice with people that are knowledgeable about, the product management interviews, that's really a good resource. I recommend practicing with as many people as possible, as many times as possible. So let's start with the question today. And the question today was, imagine that you are coming into, I don't know, Google interview, and they ask you, hey, you're an entrepreneur, all right? And you have the idea for designing a mobile app for gardening. So the question is, how would you design this mobile application, right? And what I usually like to do is to put a structure so that we are on the same page, and then have one of you, or it could be you do part of it and then somebody jumps in and does the rest. But usually it's nice to have somebody try it, and then we give them feedback about how they're doing, right? So let's put some structure to it, and you're free to follow it or use something of your own. So the question is, how to design mobile app or gardening. So this is a typical product design question. And usually, the question here is, you're an entrepreneur, you're building a mobile app. Obviously, if you're building something that yourself, what is your purpose, right? Obviously, it's to make money. So, the first thing would be, what's the business goal? Say that. Next one is, okay, once we know the business goal, right? Let's start with, actually, before this, is clarifying questions, right? So if you're unsure of things, the first thing is ask clarifying questions to your interviewer. This is a very open question, so I'm sure that there are going to be questions regarding what precisely do we mean by gardening app. The next thing is to define what the business goal is. It could be very obvious or not. Next one is to define, okay, who are the users? We also call these personas. And by that we mean, what are their motivations? What are their goals? Here you want to define, motivations and goals. And the goals are obviously with respect to the application, right? And then, what are the user needs or use cases? Next, what are can you come up with solutions for these use cases? And then prioritize solutions. Give some metrics as to how you're gonna tell whether your design is successful, and then wrap up. So that's usually the steps, right? The crucial step here is really where you should be spending most of your time. Who are the users? Defining the personas in the use cases. From here derives everything else. If you don't have enough use cases, that's it. You're not going to be able to come up with enough solutions. Okay. So let's start with this. Who wants to practice?
I'll practice.
All right, Wesley. Bravo. Go ahead. I'll be your interviewer.
You're my interviewer, and I'm the entrepreneur, or I'm building this for you. So, I mean, the first clarifying question I have is that gardening app is really broad. So is there any more information about what we're trying to achieve with the gardening app? Is it, say, is it for a gardening supply store, for example, or is it a gardening, like, social platform? Like, what what are some of the objectives around this?
Yeah.
What currently exists, for example, and what might those business use cases be?
Yeah. So yeah, those are good questions. So what? Let's scope it down, and I say let's imagine that our target user is going to be homeowners. Okay. So homeowners, you know, homeowners that have gardens.
Well, I mean, for example, like in the business case one, so in a good interview, the interviewer will collaborate with you and give you more information, and then in other ones, they just like, well, what do you think? So almost at each step, they kind of want you to either work with them or enumerate. So like business goals for a mobile app would either be, okay, well, eventually it has to get paid for. So the business goals could have it be being a paid app that people pay for in the App Store, or the business goals could be it could be advertising is how we eventually get our revenue, and those would be two ways. Or you could do in mobile ones, you could do a lot of in-app purchases, for example, or maybe be a combination of all three. And then hopefully the interviewer at that point would pick one and allow us to focus on them.
Yeah.
But each one of those would help. By choosing one, we narrow down kind of the scope of it.
Okay. So let me, since I would like to get your thoughts, okay, on how do you think you can raise revenue with this kind of application?
Right. Off the top of my head, you could raise revenue again by paying for it. So you can have users pay for it. And so models off the top of my head would be freemium, premium models, where you offer some service and then have a subset of those users pay for premium aspects of the service.
Yeah.
And another aspect would be advertising. Yeah. So displaying ads in the appropriate context. Mm-hmm. And those would be two different ways to get revenue. Yeah. Another way is if it's like Google, for example. If Google was doing this, then most of their revenue is coming in through advertisements across their platform. So the business goal might just be user adoption.
And those are fine. Those are fine models to raise revenue. I don't want to spend too much time on that because this is more whichever way, the focus that they're gonna put on this actually in this kind of question is on the design of the application, to see whether you can actually are empathizing with the user. So let's move on. Okay, these are two ways to raise to make money with this app, and that's fine. Let's go now that we have established that. Now, how are you going to start thinking about the design of the app?
So, I mean, when you say design, right, it could be, so your primary user could be the guy who's offering the services, or your primary user could be the guy who's taking the services, correct?
No. So you are building an application, a mobile app, okay? And the primary user of your app is going to be the person that owns a garden, correct?
Okay. Okay, so yeah, I agree with you. But usually, like if you look at Uber or Airbnb, the services they offer, they build the application for the service provider.
That's a two-sided market, and that makes sense, right? So Uber is a two-sided platform, so they have two types of customers: the driver and the person that is taking the ride. Right? In this case, you're building a mobile application for a user that has a garden.
Okay. So on the top of my head at this point, like as you said, homeowner would be a primary user, or correct?
Okay, so this is just a description, but it's not a persona. And so let's let Wesley think about how he would like to think about those.
Sure. So again, I'm going to go back and just say like the objective of this app is to just get a large number of monthly active users. And so from that point, I'm going to start to think about the people who that is going to be some subset of the people who garden, for example. And so now I'm going to think of the type of people who garden. And I can think of gardens based off of, I can segment in a variety of different ways. I can think of casual gardeners, people who do it on occasion. I can think of avid gardeners, people who spend 8 to 16 hours, maybe each weekend gardening. Maybe that is their focus.
Mm-hmm.
Casual, avid. I can also segment in ways of size. So I can think of people who need to have large plots of land versus small plots of land.
Okay. Okay.
Casual, avid, size, large, small. Those are the ones I can think off the top of my head.
Okay. So can you tell me what is what are certain characteristics of these people that are going to make you think of designs that are different?
Yeah. When I do this, I like to think of what kind of jobs or tasks these people are trying to do, and it often helps me to think of it in questions.
Yeah.
And so some questions are going to be, what plants should I get for my locale?
Mm-hmm.
See. How do I take care of those plants?
Mm-hmm.
What are the symbiosis? Like symbiosis would mean what are the relationships between different kinds of plants? Like how could I optimize planting certain plants together that would create a greater return than just maybe one plant by itself? Or like, so it's like not just taking control in what plants, but like where should I put the plants in my plot?
Sort of like planning. What did you say? Sorry.
Yeah, it's like planning where should I actually place the plants that I have.
Planning landscape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Place. Yeah.
See, plants take care of plants. Where should I place? For casual gardeners, I can think of services like how do I get help taking care of my gardener landscaping?
Yeah, you're already here. How to take care?
Oh, well, yeah, sorry. So that one I was thinking more of like the avid gardener or the hands-on, and then I was also thinking of like casual gardeners. Like sometimes you have casual gardeners that also have.
Okay, so are these questions for the casual gardener or the avid gardener?
I was brainstorming them at the moment, and now I can think of those would be more for like the avid and casual gardener.
Okay. Okay.
So I would like to add one more out here. Maybe like we can also ask like what are the equipments to be used?
Yeah.
To be used.
Tools. What else?
I have a. How much is all of this going to cost?
Cost, yeah. And also like how much time is it going to take on an average?
Time for maintenance?
Actually, time to set it up, and also like how much time, like maybe weekly, I have to give maintaining this. So setting up the garden as well as maintaining.
First time. Maintenance. Okay.
But wouldn't the time depend on the square feet, or depends on how much area does the
Yeah, but we're looking right now at sort of like the needs, what goes in the head of these users, and when we go through what are their thoughts, then we can realize what their needs are, right? So right now we're saying, okay, people that are going to be gardening, they're going to be asking, hey, how much time is it going to take me to do this, right? Should I buy all these plants, or or should I not? So that's sort of like a need that they have. How do I calculate this time, right?
As a subsection for cost, it would be not just the cost of like plants, but the cost for water, and all the various other aspects. So some things that people might not even think about at first.
Anything else?
That's six good questions.
Okay. So, is there a particular difference? These are like very sort of like shared needs from all these people. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would say that is the case.
Mm-hmm. Is there something that you can think of that the avid gardener will need more than the casual one?
recurring services?
What do you mean by that?
I mean, if he does find a person to maintain his garden, he might want him to repeat the service every bi-weekly or monthly or
So this, you're making an assumption right here. So you're making the assumption that the person will have somebody that is going to do the gardening for them. Is that
yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. So make sure that you state what you're thinking, your assumptions, okay? So for the avid gardener, you're saying, okay, so they might want to find a gardener. Is that what you're saying? Find a professional gardener?
Yes. I mean, the primary focus is to design an app so that the user can find a gardener, find a person to garden.
So that is not. So we're looking right now at the different types of people, right? That we can design this application for, right? So, we were mentioning, okay, it could be a person, a casual gardener, which is somebody that does this maybe on a Saturday, okay? Doesn't have much time. It could be somebody that is really, really, really cares about his gardener, right? So they spend more time, right? And we could say, okay, so if this person, for example, really loves his garden, maybe at some point they need help, okay? But that's a need, right? Well, these are all needs that we're trying to, okay? So that would be for this specific gardener. These other ones, everybody, I think, share those same needs. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I am agreeing with that. So I also feel like, suppose if I'm a casual gardener, I would like my app to have like like I can search for some videos or something which will help me like just
Right.
like like how we look for like cooking recipes, like that. If I have a video which will just give me like a brief overview, like it's like gardening is really easy, or
Learning material, right?
yeah,
And
right.
here, you know, you can have like maybe articles, right?
Yeah.
Articles, you can have recommendations of books, right? And so on, and videos and whatnot, right?
Right.
I think some of these are going to be, for example, article. The casual gardener, they don't want to spend too much time. They just probably want to learn by doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're probably just going to read articles. I doubt that they're going to read books. But this could be for the avid gardener, right?
All right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, that's a good point.
It strikes me that a lot of the jobs, these questions, sorry,
Mhm.
these questions might get answered differently for an avid versus a casual gardener, and they might have different priorities. So maybe these jobs are not like, you don't have a specific job for each type of user, but when you start to dive into how to take care of that job for each user, it could be slightly different in the solutions.
Yes, and the way I separated this, you know, I myself thought about three different types of personas. And I actually thought about, you know, three different types of personas, which is the relaxer, which is the casual one that you mentioned, Wesley. So a person just wants to relax in his garden, maybe on Saturday, a couple of hours, right? You don't want to spend time learning or anything like that, just relax. Then you have the bragger, people that just want to brag about their gardens and invite people, their friends. And maybe you have somebody that is just the obsessive gardener, right? It's sort of like the expert that is just completely obsessed. That's what they do, and they want to plant exotic plants and whatever and whatnot, right? So I partition it this way because it gives me a differentiating focus, right? For these guys are easy, low touch. They don't want to learn much help as possible. The bragger, they're more into aesthetics, you know, and then the expert is just really obsessed. They want to actually probably experiment, you know, learn. And so based on this, you know, that allowed me to focus a little bit more, say, okay, who's going to be my primary user, right? So, and for me, my primary user, I thought it would be probably the relaxer ones, because there's more opportunity to sell the relaxer and probably the expert. Because these two are opportunities to sell them stuff with advertisement and stuff like that. The bragger, I don't know.
Well, that comes back. It makes a good point when you do this to talk to your interview, and that comes back to the business goals and objectives.
Yeah.
Like if it's revenue, then of these personas, which are going to be the ones who are going to be the most likely? If the revenue is coming from a paid app, who's going to be most likely to pay for an app? And in that sense, that's going to be the experts and the braggers who are already putting in more money into their gardens.
Right.
If it's through advertising, then you're trying to reach a larger audience, and so you definitely want to make sure that you create solutions that could reach to all of them.
Excellent point. You know, and this could be even subscribers.
And do we also want to have a social aspect to it, like people can talk to each other and stuff like that?
Yeah, and that would also go into, I put the social aspects in the relaxer because they probably want to socialize with people, but it can go also into the bragger, right? Maybe they want to have like an Insta gardener app, you know, like they want to show up their garden. So that's a very good point.
It strikes me that the interviewers, in the feedback I've heard from others, say that they're really focused on your structured thinking, how you're thinking about it and presenting it to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if whatever your assumption is in the beginning with your business goal, if you just continue your presentation along those business goals,
Mm-hmm.
that is what they're looking for. They don't want to necessarily see you divert off from your goal. If your goal is to have large adoption, then they don't want to necessarily see you create solutions that are just going to be for a small people.
Agree with that. I agree with that. So based on this, you know, that sort of like puts a structure, as you said, Wesley, right? And then you pick your persona, which is aligned with your business goals or your revenue model, right? And then we can like focus on that persona, right? The way I would do it is I talk about these three personas and I would put their use cases, right? I would talk all about them, and then I'll decide, based on this business model, I will pick the relaxer, and then I focus on solutions for them. The way we did it here, there wasn't a good differentiation, right? Of who are these needs for precisely. It sort of like covered everybody. So I think that let's focus on, let's say that we say we're going to do, what would be more interesting? The paid app or subscription for the expert. That's sort of, let's say that we're going with a paid app with a subscription business. And so that means that perhaps the expert and the bragger are the best sort of customers, sort of personas. Can we let's go again through use cases, right? Maybe these use cases and maybe add some more for these two.
Okay.
So
one thing that has been helpful for me to think about is on those jobs and those questions over there, is to think for your user, what are they currently using to solve that job?
That's a good point.
So when you're thinking what plants, what plant should I plant? What is an expert or a bragger currently using to solve that? Mm-hmm. And you can make a note, and some thoughts I could think of would be just like they're searching online. Mm-hmm. They're spending lots of time searching online. They're using magazines. So they're probably subscribing to various magazines.
Mm-hmm.
If they're part of a community, they might ask people in their community what plants they should plant.
Yeah.
And then the idea of identifying these benchmarks or like default behaviors is that when we think of solutions, we can think of ones that either deliver more than what these are already doing, either by maybe on the online search, we think of something that saves people time, where they don't have to spend so much time searching for it. And then the other part is like, what behaviors is the user doing right now? Mm-hmm. And can we create solutions that just don't require a user to change their behaviors that much? So for example, if they like to use magazines to find what plants they should plant, then a possible solution could be, okay, well, for your locale, we will populate like a Pinterest board with plants that are like good for your habitat. So instead of a gardener having to go through a magazine which has plants from all over the world, now we're narrowing down the range of plants available to them and then giving it in a format that they might already enjoy using. That would be maybe how to get to a solution.
Let me write that down, Wesley. Keep that thought in mind. I'm just going to take a picture so that I don't forget what I talked about. And what I'm going to do is, let's go through this and the process that you're going through and write down new ideas for solutions, okay? So let me delete this. Okay, so let's put here solutions. And what I suggest is let's pick each of these sort of needs and do what you just did. Talk about today and a solution that comes to mind, okay? To improve it. So we start with what plants, right? What plants should they plant? And you mentioned one solution, Wesley, which was How about a feature that shows, mentions based on location, location-based search, or location-based search for best plans, right?
Yeah, and one other tip would be, since it's a mobile app, if we when we're clarifying, if we think of what are some very mobile specific tech that could help us, like what's built into our phone that could help us with this stuff. So one of the things would be like GPS and location services.
Mm-hmm.
So a location-based search that just automatically starts populating good plants based on where you're currently located.
Okay, that's a very imaginative, very innovative feature. How about this? How to take care of the plant, and that would involve, when to water it, do I need pesticide, how to trim it, what tools do I need to use, when do I need to do, trimming, like that.
Malina?
Uh-huh.
So I was thinking, when you asking question about what plants to sort of use in the farming, maybe one idea would be, since we have the data of the person using the mobile app, his age, his gender, probably some of his behavioral and social features as well. Maybe we could recommend certain vegetables as well in this thing, for an avid as well as for a casual farm, for a casual person growing vegetables in your own backyard. And for an avid person, that could also have some commercial impact. And for a casual gardener, it would be, growing the vegetables that you need for your health and something
Well,
like that.
I agree with learning a little bit more about the user to suggest something that is more personal to their interest.
Right.
But I'm not so sure that suggesting vegetables or this and that, actually it's aligned with their goal. Like,
Okay.
I think that for the person that doesn't want to spend too much time on the garden,
Okay.
for example, they probably care about having a low maintenance flower or a low maintenance
Okay.
plant, right? And that's
Okay.
more aligned with the idea of like relaxing in your garden, right?
Okay. Got it.
So,
Got it.
but it's a good idea. So what I would say is, like, recommendation of plants or flowers, based on how much time they have, based on time and maybe the budget, So whoever has more time, like the avid one, the recommendations would be more, more exotic plants. Where somebody that doesn't have much time, they just want something beautiful but less time consuming. So, we were working on how to take care of the plant, right? So for that, one obvious idea, I think, is like a scheduling of how to maintain your plant. What to do. If I give you, the plants that you need to plant, then I can also give you how to maintain them. Any other ideas?
And along, going back to the idea of, since it's mobile specific, what is the technology that's involved in mobile that we can bring into the solution? And so notifications would be one of those.
Yep.
Like, it's time to water your plant. It's time to water this plant right here, or it's time to move this plant into the sun, or some such thing.
Yep. All right. We have this, how to take care of the plant. Planning landscape and, how to place your plants. I think that could be part of your location-based search. So they give the best plants, but also sort of, the landscape and how it will look.
Another idea would be again using the phone, and then for companies like Google that also like to have really big ideas, would be to take pictures of the area that you want to put the plants into, and then being able to use computer vision to create plots within those pictures, and then also being able to use like augmented reality to show what various plants could go where. Again, using your location and time of year, it would be able to show you the best places to put the plants to get the right amount of sunlight, and you could do a simulation of the sunlight and exposure and that plant, kind of like how stargazing apps allow you to see the movement of stars throughout the.
Yeah, maybe you can show how will they grow through the season,
Yeah, how much light they would get in that place, shade from other trees, and all of this could hopefully come from just a round of pictures and maybe some a little extra information, depending on the type.
Maybe this could be like telling you, hey, your garden's going to look like this in 4 months. How is it going to look? In 4 months. I mean, that would be really cool.
Adding on to that could be like, with the whole idea of a simulation, would be like cost. Like if you had water, since that simulation would kind of know how much you need to water it, there could be various costs associated with that.
Based on simulation. Okay. All right, let's see what else I have here. Okay. All right, I had some ideas on this as to, again, so if you want to take care of your plant, it's like the plant doctor feature, which is take a picture based on picture diagnosed. What's wrong with your plant? And how to fix it. Fatma, you have any ideas, any thoughts?
I don't at this point, but for some reason I was just thinking through how to implement the image search or the plant doctor services. Those are, it'll be quite expensive to like even implement that, like even like demo purposes, not even like, so the image search is not so great in the industry standard. The image search of algorithms are not so great. And I don't want to be pessimistic, but like it's a far-fetching idea when we don't even have customers. So, I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to be a negative. I'm not trying to be a pessimist here, but I'm just trying to see even the plant doctor, right? So think about it, right? If you need a plant doctor service, you need a list of doctors who should be ready to look at the plant and tell what's wrong with it. And you need a list of people to actually take a picture, a good picture.
Right.
So there are too many dependencies on this. I'm just thinking in a broader perspective.
No, that is a good point. And we're going to evaluate these ideas, right? So some ideas are far-fetched, right? But that's okay, right? I mean, we're going to evaluate these ideas and at the end say, hey, this is technology is going to be too hard, it's going to be too complex, you need a lot of people to label the photos that doesn't exist. Machine learning algorithms in order, supervised learning algorithms are not that perfect, you're going to have mistakes and stuff like that, right? That is fine, right?
Okay.
But
okay. Yeah, I'm just
that comes in the like prioritization part. Like
right.
you brainstorm this stuff, and then afterwards you can go through the
You
list.
want to go crazy at this point, right?
Okay.
And because without thinking about like crazy ideas, you cannot advance technology, first of all.
Okay.
Right? And especially in companies like Google, if you come up with ideas that are based on what is possible today, then you're gonna sound very boring.
Okay.
Okay, and I don't think you want that. So, there are also very boring features. Like, for example, okay, we can show articles and books, gardening tools, all the stuff which is just like e-commerce, right?
Yes.
So right off the bat, I would say, yeah, of course, right? But that's a given. There's nothing interesting in that, right? So what we're trying to do here is to come up with something much more interesting
Okay.
than what exists today.
All right.
All right. So going back to that idea, Wesley, that you were saying, hey, what do they do today, right? Can we improve that? So we have online search magazines. They ask people in the community, right? These are crazy ideas, which are like kind of very difficult to do. Is there something in between, lowering that down a notch?
I have an even more crazier idea. I don't know.
Go ahead.
So, like, since if you're gonna start gardening from scratch, you can actually put in chips for every plant, and actually have sensors to target it. Let's say a particular plant is not doesn't have any water. I mean, you try to water it, but like a particular plant is still dry. Maybe you can get a notification say that, hey, plant number 36 in your lot is still dry, so you might as well go water it tonight or something like that. Or if there was a heavy rainfall last night, you can send a notification saying that, hey, you don't have to water your plants for the next 1 month after the heavy rain. So things like that.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Those sensors. Right.
Now, can we go down a notch and think of ideas that are not that crazy, but that will give a better user experience?
We can also, so since every city and county have their own laws for gardening, perhaps we can point out certain plants which you're not supposed to plant. For example, you cannot plant a marijuana plant in every part of this country. So
that would be part of this, right? Location based.
Okay.
So, all right.
Like plant review. It's like Yelp for plants, people's experience, like experience with the plant.
Yeah, how fruitful is it? Like, how much is it worth the pain to garden it or something like that?
Like, yeah, what would you call it?
Reviews on plants.
It's like
something more telling than that.
I think of it like it's like community plant analytics.
Okay.
I mean, plant reviews is like pretty much kind of what I was thinking too.
Community plant reviews, okay.
And which could also have more details of a particular plant, as in you can give it the type of plant or a stray. I mean, different category of plant.
Okay, and can you give me some characteristics that people are going to be searching these plants based on? Location.
I'm not so good at what plants do, but
maybe cost.
I mean, maybe you can categorize them based on plants which give fruits and plants which give vegetables or plants which don't do anything?
Oh, that's too broad.
Okay.
But I mean, vegetables or flowers, okay. Anyways, there could be lots of characteristics, but the idea is gel for plants. Okay, what else? What else would people want to, that want to brag and experts want to do?
Certain plants might need more water than others. Like for example, almonds. The almond plants need a ton of more water than maybe neem. I'm just thinking of ideas. So there'll be type of plants which might cost you more to grow over other plants. So
yeah, I think that could be
a cost prediction already there. Sorry. Okay.
All right. So I think that we have some good ideas here, and let's just go through the motion of prioritizing them. Okay. So for prioritization, now let's see. Prioritizing solutions. Okay. And I'm going to list them here. So we have one, which is the location base. Search. The recommendation, recommender system based on time plus budget. These are calendar for maintaining your plan. The other one is augmented reality to show you, best location or arrangement, best planning of your plans, location, best locations, and how you're going to mix them. This could also, the AR also has the option of like showing you the future. How we look in the future. 5 would be the cost prediction. Is the plan doctor. 7 is the sensors. And 8 is the yield for plants. Okay, so what I'd like to do is to quickly go in an interview. You have to do this quickly. So talk about impact and effort, complexity of doing this. And in terms of impact, let's think about the impact to the business based on this ad revenue that we were thinking about. We were thinking about in-app and subscription. And impact also to the user's goal, right? And in effort, we will think about engineering complexity. And then I usually put another one, which is innovation at the end, just to break the ties, if we have ties between solutions. So quickly, if we do a scan of all this, okay, which one of these do you think has the highest impact on the business goals to make money through in-app or subscriptions and the user's goals?
Well, actually the sensors is a is a pretty good revenue thing that we didn't consider in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But that would be hardware that people would buy, which could add to the revenue.
But you're assuming that we're making the hardware.
Yeah, I was.
So I wouldn't make that assumption. This is just a mobile app.
Or we can provide people to do that.
I would beg to say that you could make that argument in your interview. You could say that that the strategy here is actually to use the mobile app to draw people in and provide various services, and then you can monetize it using the sensors.
Mm-hmm. That's a good argument. Okay. You know,
And it will also collect data from the users. So,
monetizable. Okay, so let's say that that's high impact, and does it impact the user's goals? Yeah, right. So it's a bragger and the obsessive person. They want to have a perfect garden. Okay, it's high impact. I think that the effort could be a lot, right, in terms of engineering, and not only that, but spreading the sensors among the plants. I haven't seen that technology yet, so I would put a high here.
Yeah, from the user's perspective, it would be one more thing they would have to buy. But when they're actually planting it, if the sensor was made well enough, it would be part of the process of like planting it along with other things. There would be some extra setup that they might have to do. So
yeah, that's why I think it's high effort from both sides.
Yep.
And innovation, I think, is also high. Well, let's leave that there. Let's go quickly and see which one is also high impact here.
I think the augmented reality one is very high impact for the user, both for the casual and the avid one, as they can see and decide beforehand how much cost and time it would take to reach the garden of their dreams. It is also sufficient enough effort, but given the technology, I would rather rate it medium.
You would say in effort, medium.
Yes, medium.
Yeah, relative
because there would be some pre-built information already, and I do not think it's that complex to create a future garden if you have input certain information.
What do you guys think?
I would disagree, but so no, it would be the effort would be medium. I would agree on that. But what the challenge, the part I'm disagreeing with is the value that will add to the user. So usually all the virtual reality or the predicting stuff is usually not good. Like any prediction for that matter for now, we are only at 30 to 40% close. We are not like really on a high end basis. So that looking at that and the cost and the effort, looking at all three together, it might not be a good idea. But the effort would be medium, as I said, as she said.
I kind of agree also with you, Padma. But I just wanted to go back to the user's goal to make it a little bit more, logical. Like I think that we were talking about the bragger and the expert, and really what they care is about the gardening itself, what they're experiencing, right? And having an AR, augmented reality, I think it's a nice to have, as opposed to actually getting help to a beautiful garden. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It is nice to have. Of course.
I like to think of these things on two axes, which is like what is the impact for the user's life, and then what is the impact on their behavior. So the idea that a user could take photographs and then of their plot and then be able to run a simulation of the plants that they would have in the light, like that would be great, and it would be relatively low impact on the user's behavior. But then the other two things I would look at would be the build and the cost and the time, and then the impact on how many users would use it and the revenue, and those all seem really high and really questionable. So priority-wise, like I wouldn't necessarily be the first thing that I would build.
I would put it medium then, because it's kind of in between, right? For the business and for the users.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. How about the cost prediction? To me, that seems important.
Again, that seems really good on the impact for the user. They have one place to put all their costs, but then the change of their behavior, how do you gather all of this information? Like, what will it require from them to put in, and how do you get that stuff? Like,
you mean the business?
No, how would the user actually, like, when we get that prediction, how would we get the information to give them that prediction? And if it's going to require a lot of data that the user has to input, then it's going to be challenging. because the users won't adopt it if they have to take a ton of time to put it in.
So maybe it's high here, but like high effort for user
Yeah.
to enter data.
Yeah. It's like, how much does their water cost? What does soil cost? Like, are they going to be scanning receipts? So
I think that would be highly innovative. Okay, so how about the calendar? The calendar that tells you this is what you need to do every day with your plans. To me, that has high impact, but I think it's very complex.
No, calendar is not. I mean, if you have the information about each and every plant, the effort to implement that shouldn't really be that high.
It's for the user. Yeah, if they're using your app and they put in which plans they have, then you're delivering a lot of value for them by being able to deliver notifications about when to take care of your plants with relatively low effort on the user's perspective.
I know. Innovation high, I haven't seen that. How about the location-based search? That would be good, right? I mean, I want to know what kinds of plants are good for this area.
Yeah, I think it's delivering a medium increase in value if the current user has to go online and search for all of this manually, and they get to go to one place and just have it appear. That's going to take a lot of steps from that's going to save them a lot of time.
How about the recommendations based on time and budget?
Can we add season as well, along with budget and?
Location-based search, season.
I think second option would be a more suitable place to add season.
Recommendation-based, time, budget, and season.
Yeah, I mean, aren't they all related? For some reason, I see them related because based on the season, the budget might increase or decrease, or the time might increase or decrease, and the type of plant. Since it's the recommendations are here, so you can also show recommendations based on the season you're going to start the plant.
Yeah, I actually combine these two together. It seems to me that both of them are recommended.
I mean, places like Michigan, I'm sure you're not gonna grow anything in December for sure. So
I think this is medium and probably medium also in complexity, because it has how much time you want to spend.
I mean, for number 2, I'm guessing the effort would be depending on the amount of information we get from public sources. Like I'm sure there are certain government bodies where they have the plant information. So depending on that, pretty much the entire app is based on that.
The time information is probably depending on such a subjective variable, right? Depending how much people take different amounts of time in taking care of the garden. So I don't know. I think this could be complex. I think I'm not clear. All right. The plant doctor. The crazy idea.
Yeah, I think it has a high impact for users. Low behavior change for them.
Yeah.
All they have to do is take a photo, but the building costs are associated with it, and the time to implement it would be really high.
Yeah, I agree. Yield for plants, I think, is medium, because people need to search for things and maybe they don't want to search. Although you're the avid ones, so the avids are going to search. So maybe it's high. What do you guys think?
Yes, I think it is both high and high, but one way we can tweak the plant doctor is we can ask the braggers or the expert people in the community itself to give an opinion. Since they're so obsessed with plants, they probably could tell some basic diseases plants might get.
Yeah, but as you said, collecting the data could be high effort, but it's going to take time, to train your algorithms. in terms of Yelp for plants, I think it has high impact for the people that are obsessed with it. The plants, and it's low effort. I don't think it's much effort, right? I mean, people just enter their knowledge. Innovative, I would put medium here. So, okay. So usually what we do here is, we go for the high impact, right? Because high impact to the business and to the user. And the lowest effort, which is the lowest hanging fruit, which would be this one or this one. So it would be either the Yelp for plants or the calendar. And they all seem to be high on innovation. Well, the Yelp for plants is medium. So the calendar would be the winner in this case if we break the tie, with innovation.
Quick question, sorry, but look, I think location is also would have high impact because that would pretty much decide what to grow. So so if you think calendar is the highest priority, calendar shows what to grow, and what to grow depends upon the location. So I think 1, 2, and 3 are like maybe not 3, but 1 and 2 are closely related to each other, and those are a must-have for the app. And then maybe we can think about calendar, don't you think?
That this is sort of has to be there before the calendar.
Yes,
like a prerequisite.
Kind of comes back to what those some of your business goals were, and if it's user adoption, then it seems that having that information that allows people to learn what plants to grow would generate more user adoption than a calendar one, which would be a subset of plant. So people who already have plants, for example.
Like your funnel, right? So one would be here, attract people, then you build 2. So, that gives me the idea that if I were to prioritize these things, on the short term, I would build 1 in order to acquire the number of people. That's the first step. What plants am I going to plant? And then second, this feature, the calendar, to actually maintain the plants and get them coming back into the application and use it regularly. What are your thoughts?
That's right.
Okay, that makes sense. And I think in the interview, if you explain it that way, it totally makes sense. Very good point, Padma, for pointing that these dependencies, right? All right. So, after you do that and you decide on these 2, then it comes the wireframe part of it. So if you can actually, get an idea on paper, that is more impressive. So I really recommend that you sort of like every day when you can, just start wireframing. Usually what I do is just like go to mobile apps and I just copy them. So I get into the habit of like not being afraid of wireframing. So you think about how this would look like, right? And then you summarize your analysis, saying, okay, we started with, the question, how do you build an app for gardening? We decided that there are these types of personas based on the business goal of, the revenue model, which is in-app and subscription based. The best persona was the avid and the brother persona. We looked at their needs, use cases. We came up with these 8 solutions. Out of this, 2 of them seem to be, the best one based on impact to the business and user goals and the effort and complexity. And we find that on the short term would be best to do the first one because that will acquire, our top of the funnel users, follow in the long term by a calendar solution, which will keep them engaged. So how was that?
That was good.
Made sense?
Yes.
Right.
I mean, I didn't know. I mean, this is my first time, so I didn't know that we would think about crazy ideas and then prioritize it. I was more thinking in terms of what is possible to start it right away. Yeah.
One
So
thing, one thing that you have to keep in mind is you have to gauge, right? Of course, you cannot go too crazy and say, hey, I'm going to suggest plants that are in Mars to bring it to Earth or something like that, right?
yeah, of course. Yeah.
But so you have to gauge, what seems reasonable and what doesn't, but one thing to keep in mind is that they are going to compare you with everybody else, right? And if everybody else say the same thing as you did, you're not going to stand out, right? So just keep that in mind. All right, guys. I hope this was useful.
Yes, thank you.
As always, thank you for joining today. And Wesley, good luck on your interview.
Good luck,
Thank-
Wesley.
I'll probably come back here next Tuesday before it.
Right. Sounds good.
Right. Thank you.
I see you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
See you. Bye.